there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Pregnant woman demands my seat on the bus. Sorry, Karen, not gonna happen. After that, I walk out of the kitchen and go play video games whenever my wife tries to help me prepare food. And after that, am I the jerk for publicly scolding my boyfriend's picky eating? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to take anyone's seat on the bus.
But bullying people on public transportation is one of my favorite pastimes.
So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Pregnant woman demands my seat on the bus. Sorry, Karen, not gonna happen. I, female, was coming back home from college using the public transportation as I often do. I live in Argentina. In my stop, there were plenty of seats available. I pick one in the back of the bus near the door. A few stops after, a pregnant woman got in. She ignored the first seats, which are the priority seats, and came up to me and asked if I could give her my seat. At the time, the bus was crowded enough to not have any seats available. I told her no because I was tired and I wanted to sit down. She mumbled that I was a jerk and said she's 8 months pregnant. I told her I don't care about that and that the priority seats are in the front of the bus. Somebody else gave her a seat in the background, but still, it made me feel kind of like a jerk. I think I'm entitled to the seat if I got here before, but I also don't know if the people in the priority seats were people who really needed it, so that woman could have just asked them to give her a seat. Edit. Every single seat was taken. I told her to go get one of those seats since people who don't need them take them anyway when the bus is crowded. Also, lots of people don't want to sit in front and would ask for a seat in the back near the door, even though they're entitled to the priority seats. I find it kind of disappointing that an 8-month pregnant woman had to ask for a seat. So here's the thing. You don't have to give up a seat for a heavily pregnant person. It's the kind, considerate, understanding, and sympathetic thing to do, and if you don't do it, then you are exactly what you think you are. You're the jerk. But then again, I give pregnant people a seat. It is disappointing what the world is coming to. Pregnant women act entitled now because of their choice? That's where we are? What has happened to common courtesy and decency? For you guys throwing shade at the pregnant lady, may this never happen to your wife. For the OP, it doesn't take a lot to be decent to others. What was a minor inconvenience to you was not only a lot more for a woman that far along in pregnancy, but also potentially dangerous. If your comfort was that important, I do hope you had some then. This old man will stand without being asked, because my mama didn't raise me to do any different than that. Let's remind the gentle readers of this subreddit that this is Am I the Jerk, not Do I Have the Right? So yes, you had every right to refuse that seat to the pregnant woman, but it was very much a jerk thing to do. Pregnant women can and do suffer from a variety of invisible medical conditions. Your tiredness is no comparison. You're the jerk. Not the jerk. Laughing out loud at all you idiots who are trying to call out OP. If OP had written this story from the perspective of a scared little twisted creep playing his Nintendo on the bus, like most of you are, dang, you would all be cheering him on. But because he actually stood his ground, or in this case, sat his seat, and refused to give in to this pregnant woman's demands, you're all insulting him. Talk about a double standard. I'm glad he didn't give up his seat, and neither would I. Just because you got knocked up does not mean I need to give you my bus seat when I was here first. Go find some loser who has no self-respect and bows down to those who get knocked up. And you wonder why Karens target the little creep watching anime on his Nintendo Switch. Karens do that because they can sense your weakness and would rather steal your seat than someone like OP who won't tolerate that BS. I walk out of the kitchen and go play video games whenever my wife tries to help me prepare food. I love my wife very much. She is smart and capable and leaves me on the dust in most categories. But she cannot cook at all. She burned water once. She was boiling water for rice and it had oil in it. She got distracted and the water boiled off. Then the oil caught fire. Then she threw water on it and nearly burned down her parents' house. She can follow instructions on microwave food. She can use the microwave to reheat leftovers. That's about it. Her mom and dad gave up trying to teach her. I love cooking. I enjoy making tasty meals from scratch when I have the time. One of my go-to meals is fried chicken thighs and waffles. I used my dad's waffle recipe and they came out light and crispy. Perfect. I don't always make them though because it takes time. I cheat sometimes and use premix. They are heavier and kind of floppy, not crisp. So I'm making breakfast yesterday and the kids are at the table. I have the chicken going and I'm making waffles. It's a good morning. My wife decided to help and covered the waffles in foil so they stayed warm. They did. They also steamed and got soft. So I finished making myself a waffle and served my food and left the kitchen. She can finish everything off. She does this constantly. I'll be making steaks and I'm resting them and she throws them back on the grill to keep them warm. I'll have the chicken fully cooked and tender and she'll turn up the heat and dry it out just to make sure. I am sure. She came up to me yesterday for the 50th time and asked why I always walk away when she tries to help. I explained for the 50th time that I enjoy making good food and that her help is almost universally detrimental to the meal I'm trying to make. She thinks I'm a jerk for caring so much about how food feels and tastes. I think she can do whatever she wants on the days that it's her turn to cook. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. How many times should you have to explain that food is meant to be a certain way? I'm not a food shop, but I think she would drive me crazy. I would go insane. I cook for my family. My significant other and his mom like well-done steaks. I love mine medium rare. I've gotten a few good methods for getting steaks cooked enough in the oven, then searing them on the grill. My significant other and his mom trust me enough. They don't touch anything because they know their well-done steaks come out as jerky. And if they upset me, I'll just medium rare the whole batch. Too many hands in the kitchen ends up ticking off the chef. Not the jerk. And let's be clear, she absolutely is not trying to help. She's just interfering. If she actually legitimately wanted to be of help, then she would come into the kitchen when you're cooking and say, "How can I help?" and listen to your responses and follow through. But she doesn't want to be helpful. She wants to control some aspect of what you're doing. So she interferes with your process every single time, even if it literally means making the food significantly less tasty. And then she defends herself with the ridiculous argument that you shouldn't care how food tastes, which is about as illogical as it gets. You're not the jerk, and you have addressed this about as kindly and thoughtfully as possible, because a lot of us would have gotten downright rude by now at what is best her constant disruption and could arguably be deemed conscious sabotage on her part of your kitchen efforts. Gently, I would suggest that your wife needs therapy to figure out why she can't just ask you how she can be helpful, but rather needs to actively interfere anytime you try to cook. Is she jealous that you're a better cook? Does she just have control issues in general? Because something is going on here, and in all of it, you are not the jerk. Am I the jerk for publicly scolding my boyfriend's picky eating? Context. I'm 27, female. My boyfriend, Chris, who's 29, is the absolute pickiest eater I've ever met. No, he doesn't have food allergies. No, he has no intolerances. He's just picky. I don't blame him for that. His mom didn't know how to cook a whole lot, so Chris's palate adjusted to it. Since we've been together though, we've worked on cooking dinners with one another to try and find things with ingredients he'll enjoy that may be outside his comfort zone. Anyway, last night, my parents said that they would love to go to dinner with Chris and I. My parents live in another part of the state and I don't see them often, so I ran it by Chris and we made plans. The restaurant was a new seafood place that opened close to where we live. Since I knew how picky Chris can be, I asked him to look over the menu before we went, so we could make sure there would be something that he'd eat. He told me he looked it over and would have the salmon. Fast forward to this evening, when we all sat down to eat, and he made a disgusted face looking at the menu. I asked what was wrong, and he told me there's nothing he'd eat. My parents looked a bit hurt, so I pulled Chris aside and said that I couldn't believe he'd do this, that if he wouldn't like the food, he had all of yesterday and most of today to pick a different restaurant. I then commented that I was just annoyed by his picky eating because now it's hurting my parents, and left the restaurant with him after apologizing to my parents. He told me that he was in shock that I didn't defend him and that I should have known he would be unhappy and was being a total jerk for publicly humiliating what he can't control. Am I the jerk? Quick edit about the salmon. I had asked him about that, and I guess the problem is he read the menu again and saw how it was prepared, and he didn't care for the seasoning that was going to be on the salmon. Edit. Oh geez, this started blowing up far more than I expected. I'm sorry I'm not able to respond to all of your comments, but I have read them and I really appreciate your support. I will be spending some quality time with my parents to see a movie the three of us enjoy, and Chris will not be attending. Update. A lot of these comments have really opened my eyes, and I'm not sure that this is someone I would be okay to spend my life with. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, Chris and I are living together and we split bills 50-50 with both our names on the lease. Most likely, when the lease is up, I'll be living by myself though and reevaluating my relationship. My parents and I also had a wonderful time with the movie last night, did some catching up, and guess what? We're going out for seafood tonight because we all want to. Not the jerk, because you did everything to accommodate him, but he changed his mind. But why did you leave the restaurant? I'd have finished the meal and made him wait. Surely there were some side dishes or appetizers he could have snacked on. Not the jerk. It's not about him being a picky eater. It's about him using his eating habits to be the center of attention and making other people feel inferior for hurting him by not meeting his needs. Not the jerk. Chris is a big boy. He can use big boy words. You told him to check the menu. He said he found something to eat. You have to assume that the adult is responsible for their own choices and will speak up if something is wrong. You shouldn't have to read his mind that the salmon will be fine means I'm going to make a scene at a seafood restaurant and blame you for not saving me from the evil fishes. He's the one with a dietary restriction. He has to speak up for himself because no one is going to do it for him. Why is he making you responsible for food availability when he won't do the absolute minimum for himself? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
Man, children, not even once.
Am I the jerk for having a better wedding than my sister-in-law? I'm 29, female, from a middle-class family, and I have an older brother who's 35. Let's call him Adrian. He's a self-taught software engineer and makes pretty good money. A little over 1 year ago, he married his girlfriend, 28, female, of 6 years. Let's call her Heather. She's not a bad person, but I think she's a little bit spoiled. She's the type that loves to brag about all the expensive stuff her husband bought her, and their wedding was pretty extravagant. She still loves to talk about how it was the most amazing wedding she's ever been to. My brother is kind of wrapped around her finger, but it never really mattered until now. I met my fiancé, 36 male, about 4 years ago. It was a business event, and he owns a decently sized and very successful company. So saying that, he's extremely wealthy. Since he grew up less than, he loves to spend his money on things him and his family could only dream about before. One of those things is, of course, our wedding. He wants to go all out and hire a somewhat well-known wedding planner to arrange everything. Honestly, I'm pretty excited. I never dreamed of such a luxurious wedding, but now that it's happening, it feels like I'm living some wild dream I never even dared to, like textbook fairy tale. Recently, I was at a family gathering and was hanging out in the living room with my mom and Heather doing girl talk. My mom started asking me how the planning was going, and when I told her about everything we were doing, I could see Heather go pale and then extremely red in the face. She was quiet for the rest of the night. The next day, Adrian called me up and said that Heather was extremely upset and felt like I was trying to one-up her wedding. She said I was trying to upstage her because I never expressed desire for a fancy wedding before. He asked me if we could tone it down so it doesn't exceed the budget they had for their own wedding. I laughed because, honestly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and then I naturally said no. He sounded upset and hung up. A few hours later, Heather calls and she starts yelling at me, repeating mostly the same stuff, saying she knew I was always jealous of her and I'm only with my fiancé because he's rich and I want to rub it in her face. That made me snap, and I said, if you're that obsessed with money, maybe you should have married someone else instead of my brother. If anyone's jealous of someone, it's you. She screamed at me and started crying before hanging up. Now Adrian is angry and calling me a jerk for insinuating she shouldn't have married him, and my parents think I was too harsh on her when I know she's always been materialistic and are asking me to lower our wedding budget to appease her. I don't want to. My fiancé definitely doesn't want to, but I don't know if that makes me a jerk or not. Not the jerk, and you should increase the budget for your wedding every time she complains about it. Not the jerk. First, it's you and your fiancé's wedding. Second, if you give in now, there will be no end to her demands. Your dress is more elegant than hers? Why? You can't go to Paris for honeymoon. She was only in California. You shouldn't buy a 4-bathroom house. There are only 3 in her house. You have to organize your birthday party at Wendy's or McDonald's. Your kid cannot attend a better school than hers. It's unfair, and so on. If you had been rubbing it in their faces, gloating, etc., I'd say everyone sucks here. But you didn't. Your mom asked and you answered. And who cares if you never wanted a fancy wedding? Your fiancé does. You probably didn't have to add that jab at the end. It definitely didn't help. But you were essentially, or just actually, being harassed. Not the jerk. You're the jerk. When Heather enjoys luxuries, she's a little bit spoiled. She's the type that loves to brag about all the expensive stuff her husband bought her. When your fiancé buys nice things for his family, he grew up less than. He loves to spend his money on nice things for him and his family they could only dream about before. Pot, meet kettle, and stop being competitive with Heather. OP. I didn't say that about her as an insult though. It's just how she is. She likes to brag about things, and that's not really a problem with me. It's just this situation. Am I the jerk for announcing my pregnancy at my sister's wedding? I'm 32 and my sister is 28, and we've always been incredibly close. Point in case, she was the first person I told that I was pregnant, besides my husband of course. I told her essentially a week after I got a positive pregnancy test, which was about 3 months before her wedding. I told her that I was going to tell our parents and my husband's parents around the 10-week mark, but she told me that I should hold off until her wedding in September. I'd be like 4 months along at that point, so I wouldn't be showing really, and she thought it would be so special for her to be able to make an announcement about a special guest at her wedding, and it be her first niece or nephew, and my parents' first grandbaby. I agreed because it seemed like it meant a lot to her, and again, we were super close, and I was happy to do that for her. Turns out, the first trimester was awful with morning sickness and exhaustion. I would have preferred to be able to talk about it with my mom, but I was willing to bear it for my sister's wedding. Well, the wedding came along, and about halfway through the night, I asked her when the announcement was happening. She told me that she had changed her mind and that her wedding didn't seem like a good time or place to announce my pregnancy. I was obviously super upset since I went through a really awful first trimester with only my sister and husband to lean on. I decided I wasn't going to put the announcement on hold any longer just for her. So my husband and I pulled my parents aside and quietly told them to keep it private for the evening. They were thrilled, lots of hugs, a few tears, but a very touching and private moment. Literally, no one else found out until I announced it on Facebook a week later. My sister found out around the same time as my Facebook post when my dad mentioned how we told him about it, and she texted me and called me a jerk who made her wedding about myself, and she hasn't spoken to me since. I've messaged her and apologized probably a dozen times since then, but she refuses to talk to me, and now she refuses to come see her little nephew, who's almost a month old at this point. My parents and partner think I did nothing wrong since she went back on her word, and that I should just wait it out and she'll come around. I'm obviously unsure, as clearly this has made her so upset with me and we were so close before. Am I the jerk? Edit. I've seen a lot of comments saying that I was trying to be petty, mean, vindictive, spiteful, hurt my sister, etc. And I just wanted to address that really quickly. If I had been any of those things, I would have made sure she found out that I had done it, you know? She just happened to find out a week later because my dad let it slip. I just desperately wanted to tell my mom, and after waiting over 2 months for my sister, it really felt like I couldn't wait another moment at the whims of someone who wasn't even involved in the pregnancy. I understand now though that I definitely should not have waited to tell my mom about the pregnancy. Hindsight is 20/20 and all that. Not the jerk. I was all set to say you don't announce that at a wedding thinking you grabbed a mic and told the whole wedding. You didn't. You told your parents, just them. And it clearly didn't create a fuss at the wedding because your sister didn't even know until a week later when your parents told her. You know what happened here, right? Your sister didn't want you to steal any of her wedding thunder leading up to the wedding. She saw this as her time, and the focus was supposed to be on her upcoming life event, not yours. That's why she told you not to tell anyone at all, and then she'd announce it at the wedding. I don't think she ever planned to announce it. It was just a way to keep you from telling anyone so she could be the center of attention for months. Man, people really take the whole wedding day is only about the bride thing to a whole new level. Only the grandparents found out about the pregnancy. It didn't eclipse the wedding day at all. Not the jerk. Not the jerk because you told them discreetly after your sister played an obvious trick on you. Clearly it didn't even make an impact on the wedding because it took her being told it happened to even be aware of it. I don't think she even intended to make the announcement. She just didn't want attention taken away from her while she planned her wedding where she did a really nasty rug pull. She essentially denied you of much needed support during a very touchy time, so her special day remained front and center. Softest you're the jerk possible, and only because you did tell your parents at your sister's wedding, partially as a forget you to your sister. You could have waited until the next morning. Those 12 hours were not that important. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that she can't expect us to drop everything for her? I have a friend, Victoria, 30 female, who I love dearly, but she has a quirk that I cannot stand. Victoria is notoriously indecisive. Sometimes it can be avoided, others not so much. The last big point of contention was 5 years ago when she got married. People took off work, booked flights, etc., all for her to change her mind just months before the wedding. Both times, there was no emergency or reason to change the date. She just found a better venue, and it was still early enough to get deposits back on the original, so she did it. Of course, people were upset, and once again, a lot of people couldn't come to the new date. A few of us tried to tell her to manage her expectations. Victoria just kept saying it was her special day, so she could do it how she wanted it. And what's worse is, 2 friends in our group supported this behavior. We've had some minor issues where we'll all start planning group trips, only for her to back out or want to change everything. We never lose money, but it's still annoying. And still, we resolve this by basically planning everything and telling her where to show up. Cut to the next time that's not possible. This year. Victoria is pregnant with her first baby. She helped plan the shower and pick the venue, a friend's house, date, etc. This time, we triple-checked that this is what she wanted. She said yes. The shower's supposed to be in 2 weeks. Then, she changed her mind. She wanted to change the venue and the date. Once again, several people can't come, and this time, I'm included. My husband and I have an anniversary trip planned, non-refundable tickets and resort accommodations. We're also going to be somewhere that doesn't allow technology. Victoria asked me to reschedule, and I said I can't. I'm sorry, but I'll send a gift. She got really upset and said she wanted me there. I sympathized, but said I had this trip planned for over a year. She then mentioned how many other people can't come. I pointed out maybe it's a sign to keep the shower on the same date, same venue, etc., especially as our friend is still willing to host. Victoria tried to pull the same old, "It's my special day, you only get one baby shower," etc. I got fed up and told her that she is well within her rights to change the date, but that it's inconsiderate to constantly do this last minute. I pointed out while she's free to do what she wants, she has to stop getting mad at others for having lives and not dropping everything for her. Victoria began to cry and hung up. Our friend group is divided. Some think I should have just let her be upset, she'd get over it in time, that it wasn't the place to bring up my issue with her indecisive nature. Others have told me that I did the right thing. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You should have told her this a long time ago. Not the jerk. I'm sorry I'm unavailable to acquiesce to your last-minute scheduling decisions. But my petty side wants to tell her you can make it only to change your mind last minute because you found a better venue for that day.
Some of these stories really remind me how overrated having friends is. Karen's sister stole my iPad.
She ends up really regretting it. I'm 17, female, and my sister, who's 15, has the habit of taking things from my bedroom and keeping them or losing them. My father has talked to her, grounded her, made her pay them back for it, but she just doesn't listen. My mom always takes her side and makes excuses for her. My dad had enough, so he bought me a small safe, against my mom's wishes, and I keep some jewelry, makeup, my diary, and gifts from my boyfriend, who's 19, Caleb. Caleb comes from an upper-class family, and he's always buying me stuff. Most of it gets stolen by my sister, but the most precious gift I have from him is an iPad Pro he gave me for my 17th birthday on February 14th. I love to draw. It's my hobby, my form of expression and how I relax. I used to do it on my laptop, but since Cal gave me the iPad, now I can do it in my free time during classes, in the train, or the garden. I have more options now. Cal also made a custom case that he painted with a lot of things for me. When I'm out of home, I leave it in my safe because it's one of the only things I don't want to lose. And to be honest, I don't want my sister putting her hands on it. I spent 2 days at my brother's, who's 21, apartment planning my little sister's birthday party. When I came back, I went to take the iPad to sketch some ideas, but I only found the case. I thought I had left it somewhere else, but I was sure I didn't. I also never took the case because it's my favorite thing. I looked around my whole room, my dad's office, and the garden, since I'm usually there all the time. I also called Cal and asked if I left it in his house, but he said no. When my family came back, I was awfully crying in the kitchen. My dad asked what happened, and I told him I couldn't find my iPad. My mom said very lazily,
"Your sister lost it on the train yesterday."
I asked, "What?" And she said,
"Your sister took it to school and lost it. Accidents happen. Let it go."
I was livid. I said that my sister opened my safe, don't know how, and stole my tablet. My mom told me to shut up and to never call my sister a thief again.
My dad got involved, and after much fighting, he said that my sister had to pay me back. My sister just said that she didn't have money and attempted to go to her room, so I told her that I'll take the money for her party and just keep it for my iPad. She came right at me and told me that I couldn't do it. My mom sided with her and demanded the money, but I said, "No, she owes me. I get to keep it," and ran to my room. My father said that I could do it and buy another one. My brother transferred the money a few hours ago, and it's sitting in Cal's account because I don't have one yet. My sister has been crying because she just lost her Sweet 16 party and says a tablet is worth much less than that. ETA, my brother is coming home in around 20 minutes to talk to my parents. I don't know why, but it might be about my sister. Cal is also on his way here to install the lock. ETA, my brother took my parents and my sister out. I'm at home with Cal right now. He already installed the lock and we're looking to buy some safes. Update, my brother just left. Apparently, my sister has been stealing from him too when she goes to his place. She admitted to just keeping the things to herself and that sometimes she can't help it. She acts before she can think about it. She admitted that she took my iPad, but claimed that her intention wasn't hurting me. That's why she left the case. She was planning on taking it to school, bragging about it, and then returning it since it was way too expensive and for once didn't want to take the risk. But apparently she did lose it or someone took it from her bag because she swears she didn't sell it or anything. I mean, after this, it's just pointless to keep lying. She went to her room and came back with a bunch of things, some mine, some my brother's, and some that belonged to our cousins and her friends. She even had one of Caleb's rings. We don't know how she did all of this, and she refuses to give that information. She also refuses to tell me how she broke into my safe. My parents are outside talking alone, and my dad let Caleb spend the night here with me. Not the jerk. If she cared about her Sweet 16 so much, she shouldn't be stealing. OP. Maybe she didn't think it would be related to that. To be honest, this is my first time snapping, so it's new to all of us. She's coming to the age where people will be able to have her arrested for stealing. She needs to learn that she can't just take crap from you. If she doesn't have the money to replace what she's taking, her grubby little hand shouldn't be on it at all. Taking her party money is the lightest punishment she could serve for this crime. Even a used iPad is worth enough to be a larceny charge if she steals from the wrong person. Also, change the combination on your safe. And put locks on your bedroom door and a camera in your room. OP. I don't think I'll be allowed to have a camera in my room. My dad said yes to the lock though. Am I the jerk for being too close to my ex-husband? 6 years ago, I got divorced from my now ex-husband. There was no drama that led to this. We simply realized we were no longer happy or in love, so it would have been a clean break if not for the fact we had a daughter who is now 11. Neither of us wanted to lose full custody of her or miss important moments in her life. She's the most important person in both our lives, and we debated on trying to make it work just for her, but realized that would only lead to all three of us becoming miserable. So we entered an arrangement that many would view as unconventional. When we sold our house, we used the money to buy 2 semi-attached houses that were joined and had a door installed between them. The construction company tried to warn us against this as it would affect resale value, but neither of us had any intention to sell, so we had them go ahead with it. We also had them take down the fence between both our back gardens so our daughter would have an extra large back garden to play in. Many of you may balk at the door, but there is an agreement. It's strictly for our daughter's use, and neither of us can use it barring any emergencies, say a fire, a medical emergency, or something being wrong with our daughter. She also has 2 bedrooms, one in each house, and every day she can pick where she wants to have breakfast, dinner, and sleep. I won't lie, it was awkward at first, but for her sake we made it work and even regained a lot of the friendship we had lost, though it was of course strictly platonic now. Last year, my ex-husband married his girlfriend of 3 years, a lovely woman who I'm actually friends with, and I was even a guest at their wedding, with my daughter being one of her bridesmaids. All in all, it's an arrangement everyone is content with, except for my boyfriend, who I started to date 2 years ago. He understood the arrangement entering into the relationship, and while he said it was a bit weird, he never protested and all seemed well. Things are getting more serious, and we've been discussing moving in together, and he has made it clear that he wants me to move as he doesn't want to live next door to my ex-husband. I understood, but told him that wouldn't be happening, as my daughter had to come first, and our arrangement gave her a stable upbringing. He got upset with me and asked me how he was supposed to be a father to my daughter when she already had a dad and he was literally a wall away. I won't lie, this took me by surprise as I had no idea he wanted to be a father to her. I told him gently but firmly that he wasn't her father, that she already had one, and that even her father's wife didn't try to be a mother. Instead, she is called by her name. I told him if he wants some kind of familial title, he could be an uncle, but I wouldn't give him permission to take her father's title when he is very much involved in her life. He told me if I loved him, I'd move for him, and despite me trying to tell him I do love him, he isn't listening. Am I the jerk in this? Not the jerk. Sounds like you very clearly explained how things work in your world. Kudos for coming up with a unique parenting method that puts your daughter firmly as the most cherished outcome of your previous relationship. Your new boyfriend may not be compatible with your uniquely blended family. Bit of a red flag that he wants to appropriate the title of father. Good on you for nipping that in the bud. Well done, carry on. Without him, if he can't get the brief. OP. Even my ex-husband's wife doesn't get called mom or any variation of that. She is called by her name, and when my daughter is feeling particularly affectionate, a nickname. So yeah, I wasn't going to let him be father. Not the jerk, since you were honest with him from the beginning, and your boyfriend's "you don't love me" arguments seem to be his ego and insecurity speaking. Not gonna lie, but love the fact that you two put the love for your kid and her having some stability before your own egos and needs. Hope you have the strength and mental sanity to keep doing that, even if that would mean breaking up with your unreasonable boyfriend. Do him a favor and break up with him. He isn't going to be happy. You and your ex did this thing, and your ex is lucky he found someone who didn't have a problem with it. You may not be so lucky, but that is a chance that you're taking doing this. It's hard to move on, and most people are not going to want to pursue a relationship with this kind of arrangement. That works for you and you're happy with it, then that's good. There's no way to compromise here. You aren't budging, so break up with this guy and let him go. Not the jerk. Girl, run. Any man who isn't okay with you being close to your ex is a control freak and insecure. I always stay close to my exes, and I've never regretted it. Trust me, I've dated tons of guys, and the best relationships I've had were with secure men who didn't care what I did with my exes. Men need to realize we aren't their property. To be honest, I have hooked up with some of my exes on certain occasions just to spite a jealous boyfriend I had at the time, then made sure he found out to hurt him. Yowza. I know it sounds bad, but all my girlfriends do the same thing. You don't have to go as harsh as I do, but please don't settle for a loser control freak like most of these guys are nowadays. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.